One morning, Mite wakes up to find a coconut next to his bed. He remembers the previous night and quickly throws the bedsheet into the washing machine, getting ready for the day. His friend Damiano calls to say he had a good time with Beatrice, but she left to get breakfast and accidentally locked him inside the apartment. While listening half-heartedly, Mite notices a note stuck to his fridge. He rushes to the church just in time for his father Sergio's wedding to Verna. Inside, Verna's daughter and Mite's new half-sister, Belinda, gives him a knowing look. After the ceremony, Mite gives Verna a bonsai as a gift and joins the family photo. As they leave the church, a ball falls from above. Mite catches it but can't see who dropped it. He looks up from the balcony and kicks the ball back up. A few days earlier, Mite visited Verna's old apartment. He told his father he would stay only for a short time, but Sergio encouraged him to stay as long as he needed. Sergio tried to convince Mite to move on from what was bothering him, but Mite refused to listen. Later, Mite worked as a graphologist, analyzing a man's handwriting to understand his background. He became curious about the man who wrote a will they were studying, but his colleague Bruno reminded him that speculating wasn't part of the job. When Mite returned to the apartment, he was shocked to find Belinda's bags. He called his father, upset that she would be moving in with him. Sergio explained that Belinda only needed a place to stay for the wedding, as she didn't want to deal with the chaotic preparations at their house. He also asked Mite to talk to her, since she was having trouble at school. Mite wasn't interested, repeating that he planned to move out soon. Later, Mite had dinner with Bruno and Damiano. Damiano was trying to sell an apartment to Bruno, but it was too expensive for him. Mite agreed, pointing out that buying something they couldn't afford wouldn't help him get custody of his daughter. Their conversation was interrupted by a call from Bruno's mother. While Bruno was on the phone, Mite took the opportunity to remind Damiano how little money they make as graphologists. Damiano suggested they should find better-paying jobs. After the call, Bruno admitted to Belinda that he couldn't bring himself to tell his mother that his wife had been cheating on him for years. When Mite returned to the apartment, he found Belinda already asleep. He couldn't help but notice how beautiful she looked as she slept. In the morning, he left quickly when he heard her wake up. Belinda called him as he was leaving the building, but he lied and said he had an appointment. Instead, he went to a casino to pass time away from her. Meanwhile, Belinda enjoyed listening to music while unpacking her bags. That afternoon, Mite called Damiano to hang out. Damiano brought him and Bruno to a club later that night. As they stood in line outside, Beatrice walked by and got VIP access to the club, catching Damiano's attention. He quickly rushed to follow her inside. While Damiano watched Beatrice from a distance, Mite decided to approach her. To his surprise, she noticed him. Their night became more exciting as their group of friends attracted the attention of other women. However, Bruno soon started to feel lightheaded, imagining himself floating above the crowd. On the way home, Mite invited Bruno and Damiano for breakfast, but Bruno just wanted to go back home. This meant Mate had to return to his apartment after avoiding Belinda all night. He didn't feel like going inside, so he spent the night at a bar before heading to his father's place. The next morning, Sergio met him at the sauna. He was worried that Mite was still upset with him for marrying another woman. He confessed that he never loved Mite's mother and only stayed with her for his sake, but he had always loved Verna. Sergio hoped Mite would find someone he could feel the same way about. Feeling uncomfortable, Mite left. That afternoon, Mite visited Damiano at a penthouse he was selling. After the clients left, Damiano revealed he planned to use the penthouse to impress a woman. Mite asked if they could go out instead, but Damiano didn't want to miss his chance. Later, Bruno found Mite working late and got suspicious. He also scolded him for making assumptions about their last job involving the will. Bruno explained how graphology helped them understand a writer's changing thoughts by looking at their handwriting, then called them drifters, because their minds often wandered. Afterward, Mite invited Bruno to hang out, but Bruno declined, saying his daughter was staying with him. With no plans, Mite wandered the city until Belinda called him for help. He rushed home to find her scooping soapy water from the floor after she accidentally removed the washing machine hose. They cleaned up together, and as they worked, Belinda mentioned that their parents invited them to dinner the next day. She asked him to come with her, playfully teasing him with a look. As Meat leaned in, she swatted him with the rag, starting a playful fight. Afterward, they watched a documentary, and Meat realized that Belinda had been spending a lot of time alone lately. She later asked him to pick something up for her from a friend, and when he questioned why she couldn't go herself, Belinda didn't explain. Later that night, Meat went to bed but couldn't sleep. He checked on Belinda and found her asleep, without clothes. The next day, Meat went to see Belinda's friend, Sophia. Sophia was surprised that Belinda was back and quickly took Meat to the apartment to see her. Once inside, Belinda began using some of Sophia's things, but Sophia reminded her that she still owed her money. Belinda then asked Mite to lend her some, but he refused. Just then, the doorbell rang, and Mite rushed out, running into Damiano on the stairs. Damiano wanted to have lunch at Meat's apartment, but Mite suggested they go to a cafe since Belinda and Sophia were there. This made Damiano eager to meet them. They had lunch together, and Mite watched them with a look of disapproval. Then, Bruno called Mite for an appointment, leaving him with the ladies. That evening, Mite went to the family dinner, but Belinda and Sergio were not there yet. To make conversation, Verna asked Mite for his opinion on their wedding, but he admitted that he wasn't the best person to ask. He mentioned that he still wasn't used to having his father back in his life. Verna tried to comfort him, but Meat reminded her that she wasn't the one Sergio had left. She tried to explain Sergio's decision, saying that Meat's mother had her own faults. Meat warned her not to speak ill of his mother. She apologized, but told him she loved Sergio and was happy they were becoming a family. She hoped Mite would attend the wedding. After dinner, Mite went home to find the apartment a mess, suggesting Belinda had spent the day with their friends. He heard her in the shower and asked why she hadn't come to dinner. She explained that she had fallen asleep after hanging out with Sophia and Damiano. Mite complained about how she had begged him to go, but in the end, he was left with only Verna since Sergio didn't show up either. After her shower, Belinda showed him how to recycle soap scraps into a new bar. They then watched a TV show where Sergio appeared as a guest. Belinda was happy to see Sergio, but Mite wasn't as excited. He mentioned that Sergio thought she was feeling down, which is why she got in trouble at school. Belinda rolled her eyes and explained that their classroom had flooded and she was blamed for it. Meat asked if she was responsible, and she admitted that maybe she was partly to blame. Then she laid her head on his lap, which distracted him. As she drifted off to sleep, Belinda jokingly said she dreamed of him being beaten up by puppets. Eventually, Belinda fell asleep on the couch. Meat went out to clear his head because he couldn't ignore the fact that he was starting to feel something for her. He walked around until morning, but the lack of sleep made him exhausted. He accidentally fell asleep by a fountain and dreamed of a naked Belinda collecting soap from a hotel trolley. Later, Meat went to work, but he couldn't concentrate. Wanting to distract himself, he called Beatrice, and to his surprise, she invited him on a date. In the afternoon, as they were leaving the office, Bruno told him he wouldn't be working the next day because he'd be spending time with his daughter. With some free time before his date, Meat went with Bruno to attend his daughter Carlotta's birthday party. After the party, they drove the girls home. During the ride, Meat found himself enjoying their company. However, Bruno reminded him that he would be taking Livia home, and Mita had to go elsewhere. Feeling stuck, Meat called Damiano, but Belinda answered. She insisted that Meat hang out with them, even though it was clear Damiano had other plans. Reluctantly, Meat returned home. There, Damiano said he was visiting his friend, but found him not home, so he hung out with Belinda instead. Belinda invited Meaty to join them, but when he refused, she teased him, asking if he was upset about them hanging out. To test him, Belinda got closer to Damiano and revealed that he had been flirting with her. Damiano defended himself, claiming Belinda was lying, but she playfully showed how he had tried to get closer by offering a massage. Belinda suggested takeout, but Meat said he and Damiano had plans, though he suspected it was an excuse. Damiano wasn't the first to fall for Belinda's tricks, but he went along with it. Outside, Damiano asked why Mite lied. Mite said he needed to work and warned him not to visit the apartment without him. Damiano denied flirting with Belinda, instead suggesting maybe she and Sofia were into each other. This upset Mite further, and he repeated his warning. Later, Mite went on a date with Beatrice, but he was distracted thinking about Belinda. Beatrice insisted on splitting the bill and encouraged him to share more, but Mite said he was more interested in her stories. She thought he was being mysterious, which she liked. Beatrice suggested he stay the night, but Mite kissed her while still thinking of Belinda. To his surprise, Beatrice got upset and asked him to leave. However, when he called a cab, Beatrice convinced him to stay, thinking he didn't like her. Despite spending the night together, Mite couldn't sleep. When he tried to leave quietly, Beatrice woke up and insisted he stay. The next day, Bruno took his daughter on her field trip, but got a call from a client waiting at the empty office because Mite wasn't there. Meanwhile, Mite was still at Beatrice's apartment, trying to leave quietly. He got distracted by her neat handwriting, which reminded him of Bruno's drifter theory. He wrote her a note before heading to work, but Beatrice caught him. Beatrice didn't believe him when he said he planned to stay longer. She told him all the men she had been with left before morning, and though she was glad he hadn't, she called a taxi. After seeing her vulnerable side, Mite promised to call again, but Beatrice thought he was just pitying her, and her anger made him leave. On his way to the office, Mite couldn't stop thinking about Sofia and Belinda. When he arrived, Bruno was upset with him for being late and leaving his daughter behind. Mite apologized to Bruno, explaining he had forgotten he was supposed to be there. Bruno scolded him, accusing him of not caring about the work because of his father's wealth. Mite defended himself but walked away when asked about his own problems. Later, Mite went home to Belinda. She asked where he had been, but before he could answer, she showed him a cake she had baked, lifting their moods. Belinda mentioned Damiano's party, but she refused to go. Mite went alone, but felt out of place. At the party, he saw Beatrice and nervously asked Damiano if they could leave. Damiano handed him a drink and encouraged him to stay. When Damiano went to talk to Beatrice, Mite decided to leave. Walking alone, he thought about Belinda and rushed back to their apartment. There, Belinda was dressed up and they shared a kiss, beginning a special evening. The next morning, Beatrice woke up next to Damiano and suggested spending the day together, but he had to attend Sergio's wedding. Since Beatrice couldn't join, he promised to make plans later, though she doubted he'd follow through. She left, locking Damiano inside while claiming to pick up breakfast. Meanwhile, Belinda left a note for Mite, explaining she had to help her mom. Later, Mite found the note and rode his bike to the church. He arrived just in time to see his father marry Verna, which made him reconsider their relationship. Damiano, waiting for Beatrice, got locked out of his parents' house. After the wedding, Bruno and Mite made up, and Mite gave him Belinda's note, which was a good example of his drifter theory. Mite asked Belinda about the previous night, and though she admitted they slept together, she reassured him they could forget it. Later, Mite kicked a ball back to a group of kids, then joined the newlyweds and Belinda in the car. As they sang along to a song on the radio, Mite hesitated but eventually joined in, feeling like part of the family.
Thanks for tuning in. Don't forget to subscribe, hit the bell icon, and stay connected with us.